Welcome to the Vault Studios Fantasy Football Podcast, your one-stop shop for all fantasy football info. Here are your hosts.
Welcome to the Vault Studio Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Glover, and football is back. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. It's back. Week 1, you're back. Week 2, look, everything's falling into
Everything's
place.
back. All good things in life are back. Football's back. I'm back. The Vault Studio Fantasy Football Podcast is back, and we are jazzed to get to dive into this week's show. Lots to talk about, lots to reflect on, lots to consider moving forward. Corey, why don't you just introduce sort of the format that we're going to run for the show, and we're going to try this for a few weeks, see if people like it, and probably roll with this for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea that we just kind of go through each game, kind of a rapid fire, one takeaway. Me and Lewis will give you one thing that we saw during the game, and, you can take with what you will with it. You can add those players, just keep a mental note. Is probably the best thing to do. But yeah, we wanted to kind of touch base on all the games somehow without being a 6-hour podcast. So we do realize that, each game we could spend a whole podcast on one of these games. So we're just trying to give you kind of quick hit information on each and one of the games that have been played. Yeah,
100%. So as you said, without further ado, let's get into it with the first game of the season. The curtain raiser for the NFL could not have been better. Tampa Bay and Dallas. Fantastic game. Tom Brady doing Tom Brady things. What was your big takeaway, one or two things from this game?
Yep. CeeDee Lamb, and that guy looks like an absolute stud. Yes, he had some drops and things like that, but if you have CeeDee Lamb right now, especially in Dynasty, you're just you're so happy because I think he's going to be a top 5 receiver going forward. And my one other take would be the Leonard Fournette Rojo drama. Arians came out today and said Rojo's the starter. Like, whatever your take is from this, hold on to Rojo. And if you can sell Fournette for anything in Dynasty and redraft, just sell him now.
Yeah, 100%. I would take a Starbucks gift card in exchange for Leonard Fournette at this point because he's not going to be bringing much value. And this is a very muddled backfield. I still think Rojo is the best runner out of that bunch. For me, Amari Cooper, wide receiver one, the wide receiver one. What a performance. Blew it up. Everyone's now going to say, he's going to have some down weeks afterwards. And that's just the nature of the beast. But we know this team is going to throw. So very excited to see Amari Cooper just look sensational, especially given he'd been dealing with some niggling injuries. And we might not have seen the best of Amari Cooper even just yet. And he looked phenomenal. And second of all, Antonio Brown. We've been pounding the Antonio Brown drum all offseason long, all through the preseason. We were telling you, draft Antonio Brown. His upside is tremendous, and he looks close to his prime. He looks like AB of 3-4 years ago at the moment. He looks really, really good. So he's going to be excellent moving forward. I would also say, and I know, Corey, you're going to back me up on this, don't panic on Mike Evans. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, next game, Eagles, Falcons. Corey, take it away.
Man, I was really not surprised because I had heard some rumblings about this Eagles team because they are a veteran team. But Hurts, man, he played really well. And he's a top 10 QB right now for sure. And he might be higher just because of his rushing upside. The way he played is just phenomenal. And, he's a Konami code quarterback. So, that rushing and passing, if he can throw for 300 yards or even 250 yards a game, you're going to love it.
100%. Could not agree more. Someone who's been pounding the drum hard for Jalen Hurts all offseason was Derek Brown from Made the Noise. I liked what he had to say. I liked what I saw from his small sample size last year. I think we talked about this as well, that Hurts was one of our favorite quarterbacks this offseason in drafts. I drafted Hurts all over the place. Very happy to have him particularly if you got him as your QB2 in Superflex leagues. Yeah, my definitely. Goodness, cheat code. I mean, top 10 upside, top 5 upside. There is a world in which if things go right, Jalen Hurts could finish as the QB1. Like, I'm not saying that's the most likely outcome, but he has the tools and the skill set to put that together. For me, For me, it was do not panic on Kyle Pitts. Yet, obviously, things didn't get off to the start that you wanted with him, but the opportunity was there. He had the second highest weighted opportunity out of all tight ends. He was, I think, he had the third or fourth highest target share as well out of all tight ends in week one. The volume is there. The production will come. This team is not very good, and there aren't many other weapons outside of Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. He will be involved, so don't panic, don't sell low. The next game was a surprise in the way it played out. There were several surprises leading up to this game, not least Zach Moss being a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I think there was 9 underdogs that actually won outright. So there you go.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Steelers getting it done. Offensively, still didn't look great. And where does your takeaway from this game lie?
Yeah, that was my big takeaway. Like Big Ben looks absolutely horrendous. It looks very much so like it did the last few games of the regular season last year.
It's almost like he's washed.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah. We had that journalist coming out caping for him. He's in the best shape of his life. He's been doing the Tom Brady diet. He's been doing yoga. No, man, you're washed. You can't get that back. Once it's gone, you're not getting it back. The only reason that Tom Brady's been able to go for so long is he's never let it go. He's lived that lifestyle year in, year out since 2005. So
it looks a little bit like Drew Brees-ish from last year, where he just can't push the ball down the field. It's a lot of short stuff. I mean, as long as he can not turn the ball over, they should be okay with that defense, but it looked pretty poor on the weekend.
It's a good defense, a very good defense, though. They were able to get after Buffalo, and that really helped them win the game. Defense and special teams, they had the score off the blocked punt. But for me, the big takeaway, everyone was panicking on Najee Harris. He played 100% of the running back snaps. You do not see that. They spent a first-round pick on him. We know Tomlin likes bell cows. Harris is going to be fine, right? There's going to be better days ahead. When you get that kind of opportunity, my goodness, you got to lean on it. Awful real life draft pick from the Steelers. Just a donkey move by a typically sharp organization. But it was Najee Harris' workload was, very, very, very erotic.
There's not anything else you can do.
And also, I will say, even though Ben looks washed, Deontay Johnson is just going to be an elite option. He's the short area guy.
He's the number one receiver on the
He's the number one receiver by a mile. And despite leaving with what looked like quite a serious injury at the time, he took that helmet to the hip. I was like, oh no, because I've got Deontay Johnson everywhere. He was back. He's going to be fine. DJ is going to help you win some fantasy football leagues. San Francisco, Detroit Lions. What do you got here?
Looks like both of those running backs are definitely startable, and I'm not sweating it at all. It looks like they're going to be using them a lot in the passing game. I think Swift had 8 catches, Jamal Williams had 9, or might have been the other way around. But both those guys got peppered with targets. Jamal Williams gets in the end zone. Swift gets a reception touchdown. Like, it's a very interesting backfield. I think almost kind of like Cleveland in a way. Obviously not as potent, but both of those guys are startable.
100% agree. If you were able to grab Jamal Williams at his ADP, you have profited significantly, because if his usage remains even close to what it was against San Francisco. My takeaway, I'm kind of holding on to my priors here, and this is more out of desperation. But please, don't give up on Ayuk yet, because I don't know what the heck was going on. It seems there's a hamstring injury, maybe a bit of a punishment. I've heard people drawing parallels to the Dante Pettis situation.
Oh no.
The difference is Ayuk is good. Pettis was not good. We have tangible data that shows Ayuk was a very, very good wide receiver last year. Hopefully it's just him a little bit slow, missed some time in camp, and Debo obviously stepped up and played exceptionally well. He looked incredible, back to his old self after dealing with all the foot injuries last year. I think better days are ahead for Ayuk. Hopefully Shanahan isn't too stubborn moving forward, but no one can look me dead in the eye and tell me that Trent Sherfield is a better wide receiver than Brandon Ayuk. I think
Sherfield ran 14 routes and Ayuk ran 13 or something like that.
Yeah, and he still played a ton of snaps, and he returned one, but I think this is more some kind of like message to him rather than Ayuk is dead. But I don't think you can start him next week. You've got to, unless you're in a really deep league, you probably can't start Brandon Ayuk because you've got to see it now, because you could risk another goose egg or another like sub 5 point game if he's not on the field or not being targeted in the same way that Debo and Kittle are. Next game, we are flying through these. We are doing really, really well. The Cardinals Titans. Where are you this game? This is a fun game. Titans looked not great. That offensive line got ransacked.
Terrible. I'm really concerned about Derrick Henry. I'll put that out first and foremost. I was like, we talked about it. We weren't drafting Henry at all. Nope. Actually got auto drafted him in one league. So
no! That's what you get. Now, the punishment for auto drafting is you get Derrick Henry.
So now I'm trying to trade him, and no one wants to trade him with me. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned. Like there was an opening there on that first carry he got in the goal line. He just couldn't get it, and he got stuffed by Isaiah Simmons. JJ Watt actually made a really nice play in the second time. He got the ball there, but I'm very concerned. This offensive line has regressed. I think Tannehill looks like a different player without Arthur Smith. I mean, it's week 1, so we'll see. But we might be treading water with those guys for a little bit.
This is going to be a problem. Yeah, Tannehill, their play action rate dropped significantly. It was over half the rate from 2020, which is one of the things that made Tannehill so successful. He was one of the best passers in the league on play action. Now, maybe it's just because their offensive line was getting so dominated, the OC didn't think that it was viable, or he wanted to try and establish the run first with Derrick Henry, and they couldn't get anything going. I think there will be better days ahead for this offense, but it is concerning. Fortunately, if you drafted Tannehill, you didn't have to pay a crazy price to get him and his upside, so abandoning ship on him isn't going to absolutely kill you. But I certainly did draft a lot of Tannehill because I was expecting, with A.J. Brown, with Julio Jones, this offense to at least maintain its efficiency. First week doesn't look great. Don't want to panic just yet. But I'm also not feeling good about starting Tannehill next week, and I'm looking for other options there. For me, Kyler Murray was the storyline out of this game, and if you've drafted him, congratulations. I think he's going to finish as the QB1 this year, just based off of what we saw. I know the Titans aren't a great defense, but he just looked sensational. He looked healthy. He looked elusive. He's got video game characteristics, human joystick, and there's one throw where he just dropped it over the shoulder of his receiver with trailing defensive backs, and it was just the perfect ball placement. It was a work of art. I can't remember at what point in the game it was. But
it was the Christian Kirk.
It was the Christian Kirk one?
The second one, yeah.
Yeah. It was just absolutely outrageous out of that throw, and there aren't many players in the NFL who can make that kind of throw. So love to see that out of the Cardinals. And I will say AJ Green had a ton of involvement. Couldn't really turn it into much, maybe because he's washed, but certainly they must have seen something from him in camp to give him that much involvement. He ran the majority he was out there on the majority of snaps. He ran a ton of routes. So look, potentially some late career renaissance from AJ Green, but who knows right now. Let's see here. Vikings and Bengals.
Woo, our guy.
Joe Mixon, RB1, baby.
Joe Mixon, feed him. So many carries. He got involved in the passing game, which was good to see. Exactly what we want to see. Joe Mixon, he finishes a goal line touch. Like, I mean, what else do you want to see? I mean, I think he had 127 yards rushing. Yep. On like 25 carries or 26 carries or something
29
like that.
Carries. He also had 4 targets as well. This is just pure bell cow workload. Joe Mixon. You just love to see it. Love to see it. But for me, the takeaway was Jamar Chase is in fact the real deal, and all of that bullshit put out by the Cincinnati Bengals beat reporters were nay good in terms of, he can't separate, he's struggling running routes, and then that fake quote that was attributed to him that was going around that he couldn't catch the football, said he couldn't catch the football because it didn't have white stripes on it. very, very weird, but he came out. He looked good. He ran some nasty routes. There's a few clips going around where he wasn't targeted, but he was just breaking ankles of the Vikings DBs. Having said that, not necessarily the most difficult secondary to beat up on, but he just looked. You can't ask for more than what he did. I think he came out, put up 100 yards in his debut, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So got a touchdown as well. 101 yards, 5 receptions on 7 targets. So great debut for Jamar Chase. Look for more of that in the future. We have the New York Football Jets and the Carolina Panthers, our next game.
Yeah. They better protect Zach Wilson, else he's going to be killed. He took an absolute punishment. But my takeaway from this one is if you're in Dynasty League and you can, finagle a way to get Michael Carter away from the owner, or even like in deeper leagues as a stash, like Tevin Coleman did not look very good in this game. It's only a matter of time before this kid starts getting more reps and more snaps. He got 16 snaps. Tevin Coleman got 17 snaps. Ty Johnson got 35 snaps. So it's not going to take very much for Michael Carter to get more playing time.
Mm-hmm.
And once that does happen, I think this offense will generally get better as the season goes along as well. Because Zach Wilson's first game, he didn't have a very good first half. He kind of threw it all over the place in the second half, and they tried to come back, but they were down by too much at that point. But yeah, he's going to get killed if they don't protect him. And they lost. I think they lost Mekhi Becton in this game.
Yeah, but it's not a serious injury. It's a mild MCL sprain, so they think he should be able to play through it and be okay.
Yeah.
But having said that,
next week against the Patriots.
Yeah, they're going to struggle. That Patriots pass rush, I think, is going to get after them pretty well. And Belichick's going to give him all kinds of chaos and remain undefeated against rookie quarterbacks, no doubt. But my takeaway from this game, my guy, Corey Davis, is the truth. He had that huge target share in the preseason that translated over to week 1. He looked fantastic.
I'm just going to say, I'm glad Corey Davis got out of Tennessee, man. I'm glad he's finally with a quarterback that can just air it out, and he's kind of like that alpha guy in this team. It's good to see.
Yeah, 26.7 fantasy points, good for the wide receiver 5 on the week. So congratulations if you bought in on Corey Davis. Start him every single week. Really, he's the only pass catcher I'm ready to start on the Jets moving forward. Although he didn't put anything in the box score, it was encouraging to see Elijah Moore be out there on that many snaps, considering he had the truncated preseason, the injuries, etc. So I think better days are ahead for Elijah Moore. Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts.
There you go.
Yeah. I know.
As much as we've talked about Lockett so many times, me and you have gone back and forth. I ended up with him in a couple leagues just because of the value. And man, I actually gave out the advice to a couple of people that asked me. I was like, look, if you want a piece of that Seattle offense, Lockett's the piece to get. Like, don't draft Metcalf in whatever round you had to get him, basically the second round, like early second. Just grab Lockett in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, wherever he's going to end up, and get the same exact value. So Lockett looked like an absolute machine. Russell Wilson's cooking, and that's what we want to see from the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, and the offense looked good. There was a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of creativity. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 scores. Just Russell Wilson doing Russell Wilson things, and Tyler Lockett he's such a good football player. He's outrageous. It was great to see him have a huge week 1. Long may it continue. He is fixated in your lineups. For me, I was excited is the wrong word, but I was like, oh, I think we could see something from Zach Pascal here because
my God, that's my guy.
Yeah, your guy. And the pass catches were just dropping off everywhere. Smart guy, went to the waiver wire, got Zach Pascal. I was like, great. I'm so happy. Saw him score the touchdown. I was like, woo, having my own little party. Opened up my app to check the score. Forgot to push save on to save him in my lineup, and he was on my bench. I was like, oh no. So that was unfortunate, and it wasn't enough. The rest of the team also shat the bed that week, so it wasn't enough to get me the win. But it still would have been nice to get those additional points. But Pascal is a starter moving forward. I'm
all in on Zach Pascal.
Yeah, There isn't a whole lot there in
No. And
Indianapolis.
he might be what everyone wanted Michael Pittman to be.
Yeah, that's an entirely possible, and he's got evidence of spiking in production when others around him go down, and he can become the focal point. And I think with T.Y. Hilton on the sidelines, I think this is going to be a great opportunity for Pascal to really stake a claim and probably earn a new contract with this team that likes to reward its homegrown talent. Chargers against the Washington football team. What was your takeaway from this one? Noting here that Ryan Fitzpatrick is out indefinitely with a hip injury, and Tyler Heineke is going to be the starting quarterback moving forward.
I wanted to say something interesting about Washington, but I just, other than, I'd rather not. Let's just talk about Keenan Allen and how amazing he is.
Oh my goodness, Keenan Allen, perfect.
Most people have him as a wide receiver. Like, a lot of people have him as a wide receiver too, and that's just
a lot of people are morons.
Yeah, I mean, it's stealing. Like, if you have him, he's your wide receiver too, like behind whoever else you have on your team. Like, you're stealing. It's not fair.
Yeah. He's going to absorb so many targets in this offense, and it's going to be very condensed. Don't worry about Austin Eckler. Better days are ahead for him, I think, and he still got you there with a touchdown. It wasn't a total letdown, but for me, it was Mike Williams, big Mike Williams. Love the player, love the way he attacks the football, contested catches, but they stopped using him as a downfield field stretcher and got him involved in the underneath areas. His career ADOT reduced by about a quarter in the first game. Now, is that indicative it's going to be 100% that way moving forward? Not necessarily, but most interestingly is he had 26% of the team's targets. I think it's going to be a very, very condensed offense. It's going to be Keenan Allen, it's going to be Mike Williams, and it's going to be Austin Eckler, and this offense is going to be good.
He reminds me of Vincent Jackson a ton. Good old V-Jax.
Yeah.
The big body receiver that pulls up and makes touchdown.
Pour one out for V-Jax.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jags against the Houston Texans, they had a little bit of fire to them.
They do, and they are a professional football team, so it should be expected. But I don't know if it was this expected. I couldn't believe the Jaguars were actually 3-point favorites in Houston. Like, why did the Jags ever be favored in a football game? I have no idea. Tyrod is a professional quarterback, and they have Brandon Cooks on their team. Who drafted Brandon Cooks right now? Whoever they are, all the people, including me, of course I had them, are very happy with Brandon Cooks right now. So
he looked phenomenal.
Like they are every year.
Right. One of the most undervalued receivers in fantasy consistently. We knew he was going to be a target hog in this offense because there ain't nobody else. And he looked great and making huge contested catches, just helping Tyrod Taylor look good. And he is a very viable fantasy quarterback moving forward. High end QB2, low end QB1 with his rushing. They're going to throw the ball a lot. Tyrod, especially if you were able to get him as like your rotational quarterback in Superflex League, you are rubbing your hands together. He also presents you with a nice sell opportunity in a Dynasty Superflex Leagues where you're stashing him as well. My takeaway is that Meyer is a donkey, and he's going to be one of the first. Yeah. He's going to be gone. He's already looking over to USC.
Did you hear the story about him being like so irate with the preseason losses?
Yeah, he does not know how to coach
preseason losses. They're going to lose anyway. Like, you better start figuring out what to do next.
This is going to be very interesting to see unfold. But yeah, that was my takeaway. Just free James Robinson. Enough with this Carlos Hyde nonsense. But
good luck with that.
Seriously, they draft a running back in the first round, and they're like, no, I don't know. We don't know what his role is going to be exactly. Poor ETN gets hurt, and you're like, okay, at least they're going to go with the guy who had a great rookie season. No, let's bring in journeyman Carlos Hyde, because that's what we need to do here. So anyway, moving on to the next game before I get too upset. Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots. Obviously, we're Patriots fans. Dropped the game by 1 point, but bigger picture than that, where I thought Mac Jones looked good, but this is not a Patriots podcast. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. So, Corey, what was your fantasy takeaway from this game?
I like Jalen Waddle. I think he's really stood out. Obviously, Devontae Parker made some nice plays, but Jalen Waddle looks like a different type of athlete. and he stood out. But obviously, honestly, going forward, I'm not starting anyone in either of these teams other than Damian Harris right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to play Waddle, but 100%. Damian Harris has got this workload sewn up. He even got a couple of targets. He is the first and second down running back, and with Cam Newton, almost said Cam Jones, Cam Newton out and Mac Jones under center, he benefits the most. That vulture, that great goal line presence is gone, and so I think Damian Harris should be locked in your every lineup that you've got him as a high end RB2 with low end RB1 upside if he hits pay dirt. Denver, New York Giants. What do you got?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from this one is just be patient with Barkley. I think, and everyone should. I think you drafted him knowing that this, was going to be a little bit of a process. But I do see people like throwing him on trade blocks and doing crazy stuff in home leagues. You never know. You might be able to lowball the owner and try to get him for like a Damian Harris or someone else that you're not really sure about going forward. But I think he's definitely a target I would be targeting if you can, and just be patient because even knowing that they were coming into Sunday's game having to play again Thursday night, like
right,
that's a tough turnaround. Like, and
exactly.
I don't even think his workload's going to be that great Thursday night either. So
no, neither do I. I mean, I wouldn't be expecting a huge blow up game. If he gets you to sort of 12 to 15 points, I'd be pretty happy with that. It's not an easy matchup, but they told us they were going to manage his workload. It was quite clear. So if you're expecting something different, you probably only have yourself to blame. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to get there by the end of the year. And when you look back and you go, oh yeah, he was a solid, a very good fantasy draft pick. It's very difficult to mentally be like, okay, I'm not going to play Saquon, and I'm not suggesting you do that because he does have the talent. If they all he needs is one pass and he can house it and he gets you there and you're all good. But don't be expecting the 25 touch type of game out of him just yet. They're going to, especially if you don't think they're necessarily going to be competitive in the next few games. Corey, I know you think the Giants might get the win this week against the Washington football team, so potentially we see Saquon. We see Saquon get a bit more involvement if the game is within reach.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what they can do. It's not don't put your money on Daniel Jones.
No. If you ever put your money on Daniel Jones, you deserve to lose it. Like, come on now. Cortland Sutton to the moon is my takeaway from this game because, damn it, these injuries, Jerry Jeudy, high ankle sprain, not great if you drafted him in quite a few places, like myself. But if you did draft Cortland Sutton, congratulations. He is going to be absolutely spectacular for you. Enjoy, because he's going to soak up all the targets. And Tim Patrick's very sneaky. Very sneaky ads. He looks good. He looks like a legitimate...
Touchdowns.
Yeah, he looks like a legitimate NFL receiver.
And a touchdown.
Yeah, that's all you need. Take it. Get Tim Patrick in your flex, especially being hammered by injuries. All right, perhaps one of the most surprising results of the week was the Packers it was the Saints at the Packers in Jacksonville because of the hurricane and the situation down there in New Orleans. But Aaron Rodgers, stunk it up.
Yeah, it wasn't good, to say the least. I don't know what's going on there. I think obviously you can point to a million different things and off-season stuff, and I don't think that's really fair. I think it was just they weren't ready. Like New Orleans, hats off to them. I mean, Sean Payton had an incredible game plan. They just absolutely drilled them, and they held no prisoners. They were throwing deep. At the end of the game, Deontay Harris, my favorite little man, caught a huge bomb. They were up 31-3 at that point. It's like, also heard a stat like no quarterback ever with 148 yards has ever thrown 5 touchdowns, let alone
crazy.
4
Of course, Jameis Winston would.
Of course, Jameis would do it. So I guess my big takeaway here is I thought Randall Cobb would actually be something because Aaron Rodgers really wanted him there.
Yeah.
I think he played like 15 snaps and had 1 catch for 32 yards, and I think it came from Jordan Love. So,
Yeah, there's no one outside of
Uh,
like the running
I'm
backs
out.
and Devontae Adams that I want in this offense. Like apart from that, I'm out on everyone. And for those reasons, I'm out. Yeah, it was crazy to see Sean Payton just foot to throat. It was like, this isn't a college game, right? This doesn't. You're not getting. There's not a committee ranking you on this performance. The win is the win. But that was good to see. Taking no prisoners. The Browns at Kansas City put in a hell of a performance and nearly got there. Except the Kansas City Chiefs did Kansas City Chief things. Mahomes to Hill, just pretty much unstoppable. Got to say, I loved how aggressive Stefanski was from the get-go, going for two, being an aggressive play caller. It was really good to see, and I think this Browns offense is going to be very, very good moving forward. Baker Mayfield looked very good. Just for them to go on the road and put in that kind of performance in Kansas City, notoriously hard place to play, you'll love to see it. So what was your takeaway from this game?
Yeah, I think obviously there's so many good fantasy players that played in this game. So kind of looking past those guys, there's hope for Hardman still. I think coming into the season, he's kind of, I know you don't like him, but as far as snap share goes, like
Right.
he had 45. The next guy was Byron Pringle, who had 11.
Yes.
Someone will eventually have to step up, you would think, unless Tyreek Hill's going to go for 2,500 yards, and same with Travis Kelce. So, someone else has to step up in this offense, and I think he's the most likely candidate to do that. So, if you want a piece of this Chiefs offense that's cheap, I don't mind stashing Mecole Hardman for now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the snap count points it out. Demarcus Robinson was involved as well. I think if you get a big game from Hardman, a heavy target game, I think I'll be looking to move on from him and sell. But certainly you've got to be thinking about Hardman moving forward, just because he's going to have significant snap share on a explosive offense. So there will be some games where he gets there. What was my takeaway from this game? Just the Browns' run game, even with a pretty much 50-50 split. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, 31 to 28 snaps. The Browns' running game is the absolute truth. I saw a graphic shared on Twitter, which is their EPA, expected points added per carry, was by far and away. I mean, not even in the same stratosphere as any other team. Typically, running the ball is like negative EPA because it's just not an efficient way to move the football. But they're doing it in such a way with two very, very good running backs, with such a good offensive line and a great scheme where they are winning games by running the football, which is typically not all, it doesn't all necessarily go that way. Typically, you throw the ball, you get up, you run the football, you control the clock. But these guys did it from the start because their run game is just, it's a different level. It's probably based off of the 1 week sample. I know it's silly to do, but they're the best running game in football. And I expect to see that continue throughout the course of the season. So you're going to need touchdowns from Nick Chubb because obviously his involvement in the passing game isn't huge. But if they can run this efficient, he can, from a week to week basis, and they don't have to be in a shootout necessarily or be chasing points all the time against an opponent like Kansas City, the Browns are going to be very effective and score some serious fantasy points. Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams. Corey, what have you got?
My guy, Darrell Henderson, looking like every piece of what I drafted him to be. Yes, it didn't look that pretty, and it's not going to look pretty, but that's exactly what you drafted. We talked about this kind of in Montgomery mode last year when we drafted him. It's not going to be the prettiest thing, but it ended up being pretty for Montgomery last year. But and it's looking pretty good this year, actually. But Henderson, I think obviously Sony Michel only played a few snaps in this one, but obviously he's not up to speed as of yet. So I'm sure that's coming. But I still like the way they use Henderson. I think he went over his receiving yards prop bet as well, and he got it in the end zone. So, I don't hate having him. I think he's kind of a luxury piece, and he's going to get plenty of usage in this offense. That's going to be incredible, I think.
Yeah, just incredible volume. I don't think we'll see that same kind of quite ceiling of usage going forwards. 50, 51 snaps to Sony Michel's 3. Obviously, they prefer Henderson. I think Sony Michel will get some time to be integrated, get to learn the playbook. But they've just talked multiple times about Henderson's durability and how they want to make sure he stays healthy. So I don't think you're going to see many more games where he's getting that level of usage. But as we said, that was more than baked into his ADP following the Cam Akers injury. So congratulations if you drafted Henderson, and the offense looks like it's going to be great. Cooper Kupp obviously had a day. Matt Stafford had a day. For me, though, the big takeaway was if he was one of the guys we targeted late in the tight end position, you're either in early or you're not in at all. But Tyler Higbee was someone you could get very late after a season of disappointing people, post breakout hype with Tyler Higbee, and he played every single offensive snap, which is crazy. And given what we know about this offense, how good it looks, he had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 68 yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but if he does, he's going to be pushing for a top 5 tight end finish if he gets that sort of usage week in, week out. So congratulations if you drafted Tyler Higbee, because he looks every bit the tight end one in this offense. And then finally, Monday Night Football. We are flying through this, by the way, Corey. We're doing really well here. I'm very proud of us. The Ravens dropping their first game of the season on the road in the Black Hole. First game with fans. Not the Black Hole. What the Black Eye? What's it called? The new stadium? I don't know. It's the new Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Stadium or something like that. It's in Vegas. What do you got?
Marquise Brown. I think if you can sell him now, I think it's a good time to sell. I do really like I like the idea of him. I just don't like the functionality of him. So Sammy Watkins got a lot of work in this game as well. At some point, Rashad Bateman will be back. I think Tylan Wallace was a healthy scratch, he was scratched anyway. They have a bunch of guys that I think could eventually usurp Marquise Brown's role, or at least his production. So I think the time now is to kind of fish around and see what you could possibly get for Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on this one. I certainly hear the argument, and I'm definitely open to it. But he's been very consistent, dating back to last season. Now, obviously, he was terrible for the majority of last season, and I kept playing him in DFS, kept setting my money on fire because he was getting all the air yards, all the opportunity, and it just wasn't working. And then he clicked, and things went well for the Ravens. Things well for Marquise Brown, and he's on like a good 7 or 8 game streak where he's performed quite well. But you're right, Rashad Bateman's coming back. Sammy Watkins looks like the wide receiver 1 there. In fact, he was used as the wide receiver 1, target, snaps, routes, etc. The question is, if Watkins stays healthy, there's Mark Andrews there, and Rashad Bateman comes back, there isn't much left for Marquise Brown. However, if you can't get fair value for him, he's very much a good flex play, because he doesn't need a lot to get you your 12, 15 points. And so he can have these blow up type games. Hold the faith with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, better days are ahead for him. Rusty first game. But even in a dud, he got you 19 points, which isn't the worst, but you're not drafting him to get you 19 points. My takeaway from this, and I think we all saw the weaknesses in his game, which I think could be coached up and improved, but Tyson Williams for a free waiver wire pickup, showing the drag and drop replaceability of running backs in this Ravens offense. It's just the way it works. Some teething points to iron out, but he got you plenty of points in the first half. He whiffed a couple of pass protections, but Tyson Williams, I think if you've grabbed him on waivers, you could potentially have a easy low end RB2 for the remainder of the season. I think he looked better than Latavius Murray, who's older, he's younger, he's got the juice. Latavius Murray doesn't necessarily have much left in the tank. He was usurped by Tony Jones Jr. in New Orleans and released there after a successful stint. So not a great look for Latavius, and I think he signed a very incentive-laden deal. They've also got Lev Bell and the corpse of Devontae Freeman lurking on the practice squad, but both of those guys are dusted. I'm not worried about them. It's going to be. I think this is Tyson Williams' backfield. Now in Dynasty, if you can go ahead though and move him for a future second, something like that, do it all day long. Do it, but hold on to him redraft because this is the kind of player who can win you a league. Same with Elijah Mitchell or these other running backs you're able to pick up that slot into starting roles, and they can carry you a long way, especially if you haven't lost the starter who got hurt to get you there. So that was about 35 minutes, and we went through every single game. How many games was that? 16 games. So we did like 2 minutes a game there. That was good. We can keep that energy week in, week out. I think this format might have some legs in it, Corey.
It might. Just
it might. Done. All right. So now week one, there was some crazy performances. There was some great performances, and there was some absolute stinkers from very high draft capital fantasy assets. We saw Aaron Jones held under 5 points. Saquon Barkley, I believe, was under 5 points. Zeke Elliott barely got anything for you. Derrick Henry got nothing for you. There was a lot of busts this week. Let's not overreact. Let's try and calm down. But let's take one buy and one sell from underperforming assets here. Corey, what are you doing? Who are your guys?
Well, I'm selling Claypool. We talked about Big Ben, and we talked about Deontay Johnson and how he's the number one receiver there. I think if I can get decent value for Claypool now, he did have some plays. You can show the owner his reverse and his jump ball that he won on the sideline. And be like, look,
that was a nice play.
Like great, it was a great play by Claypool. I love the player. I'm really concerned about Big Ben and his ability to kind of carry these three receivers.
His ability to play football.
Correct. So I'm selling Claypool if I can at the moment. My buy is kind of a sneaky buy. It's Elijah Moore from the Jets. And like I said earlier, like this Jets offense is going to continue to get better and kind of mold into, what we expect it to be going forward. Obviously, with the rookie quarterback, it does take some time. But Elijah Moore was like heavily involved in everything that they did. And that was, like he definitely outsnapped pretty much every other receiver on that team other than Corey Davis. So
it's Corey Davis and Elijah Moore.
Yeah. So I think he's kind of a sneaky stash if you're in a deeper league, or obviously in Dynasty, if you can snatch him away from the owner for cheap, I would definitely think about doing that. Yeah,
I mean, I would give up a future second and a third in a heartbeat, and someone might already be willing to cut bait on that, considering they probably paid a second round pick. So if you give them what they paid plus a little bit extra, I'm very bullish on the talent, and I think he's gonna turn into something real special. So I'd be 100% making that move in Dynasty. My guys, the first one who I'm buying or trying to buy, I know it's easier said than done, and this was one of these situations, but people panic. And I'm buying Zeke Elliott everywhere I can. If based off the overreactions that we saw on Twitter, that he's not got anything anymore. The reality is they were missing Zach Martin on the COVID list. They were going up against a very, 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 very stout run defense and pass rush. He was using Pass Pro a lot. It's not going to be the case every week moving forward. And he was kind of game scripted out. I am concerned that he wasn't heavily involved in the passing game. Now that Michael Gallup is out, though, all the targets can't go to CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. We'll take a lot, but I think Zeke's going to get involved in the passing game as well. I just think there's significantly better days ahead. And if someone's starting to panic on Zeke in your league, and you can work out maybe move a receiver for him or a little 2-for-1, something like that, I would definitely explore that angle if they're panicking, but. It's probably a little difficult to pull off, but I would certainly be starting those conversations. My big sell here, I'm riding the hate train still, despite the fact he played quite well, had 2 touchdowns, but this is the opportunity you need to sell Josh Jacobs. Primetime game, 2 touchdowns. Get Josh Jacobs off of your roster.
I will not agree with this.
I mean, we talked about this in the offseason plenty. We talked about the looming specter of Kenyon Drake, and he was more involved.
No, let's just calm
He had
down.
a higher
first of all.
he had a
Calm
higher
down.
weight. He had a higher weighted opportunity because he was involved in the passing game. We expect the Raiders to constantly be trailing because they, this
Does-
was
Is this? Just answer this question. Was his role not the same as it was exactly last year?
yes, which is exactly why I was out on Josh Jacobs because his role is predicated on the Raiders being good, scoring touchdowns, and him being efficient, which you can't expect to
Which
be
he
bailed out
was.
by 2
Which he
touchdowns
was.
every game. He wasn't. He had like 10 carries for 30.
He had 2
He had like 10
touchdowns
carries for 30 something yards.
and 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
You rely on touchdowns when you have Josh Jacobs. That's just the name of the game.
That's the name of the game, and I'm out on that game, especially when it's tied to the Raiders, who I don't think. I know they just beat the Ravens, and I'm sure Raiders fans, if they're listening, will get all salty about this. But I think that was more of an outlier from the Ravens than it was the Raiders. I think.
That's fine. I mean, we have a bet anyway. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, what was the bet?
I think it's Jacobs or Gaskin or Jacobs or Robinson.
It might have been J-Rob, and there's a good chance that those 2 touchdowns sustain that bet for the remainder of the season because Urban Meyer seems hell bent on just ghosting James Robinson and has no interest in playing him. Apparently, what I need is Urban Meyer to pretend he's sick again, and then 3 weeks later emerge as the new head coach at USC. He's going to retire from the Jags to spend more time with his family, and somehow his family is going to have to relocate to California. Anyway, so yeah, that's my buy, that's my sell in terms of underperforming assets. I guess Josh Jacobs wasn't really an underperforming asset, so I kind of maybe snuck that one in there a little bit unfairly. So I apologize. But we've got, I know I wasn't around last week in week 1, so I'm not sure if you guys did streams. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to listen to the episode, getting married and all that. I know.
You haven't listened? You got to listen to it because we gave shit for like 30 minutes of the episode.
Okay, great. I'll go back and listen to it then because I expected that would be the case. I was like, I want to get around to listen to it now and me too, but I'll go back and listen to it because I imagine that would be the case. So look forward to my roast. But we're going to be streaming a quarterback and a tight end. The criteria must be that they are under 50% owned on ESPN. So we're going to do a quarterback, a tight end. We're going to calculate from weeks 2 through to week 17. We're each going to pick a guy.
Well, we actually picked the guy last week, and Lewis picked for you.
But you mean JA picked for me?
I'm pretty sure he picked for you. I think he took Chris Herndon. And I had Dan Arnold, so I got like 5 points. So
which is better than this 0 that Herndon got?
Yeah. And J.A. said, no matter what, I automatically win that week.
Well, excluding that from the calculations, that's for sure. Did you guys pick a quarterback or did you just do a tight end?
No, we just did tight end last
All
time.
right, so we're starting the quarterbacks and the tight ends from now. So I'm going to go first here with my quarterback. And I'm going to go with the guy who is now statistically the most efficient quarterback in the NFL, Mr. Jameis Winston, the 5-touchdown hero against the Carolina Panthers. He's still only 30% owned on ESPN leagues. So if you are looking for a quarterback in a deeper league or you're not sure about your matchup, maybe you had Ryan Tannehill and you go, I don't know about that. I think Jameis Winston could be a top 10 play this week with considering how good he looked against a not so difficult matchup against the Panthers defense. I know they gave the Jets trouble, but we talked about that stemming from their offensive line or lack thereof. We know the Saints have got one of, if not the best offensive line in football. So I expect Jameis Winston to be able to have another good game here. Not expecting 5 touchdowns, but maybe some more output in his yardage. And I think the Panthers can score some points and make this a bit more of an even back and forth contest as well. Corey, who have you got? I'm going to put it in the spreadsheet here so we can track this. And each week I'm going to fill it in.
Yep. I got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tyrod Taylor.
Yes.
He's rostered in 6.3% of leagues. He's going up against he's got a tough matchup this week against that Cleveland defense. They are 12.5-point underdogs, and he's going to have to chuck it or run it, and he's not going to have any other decisions to make. So I'm counting on Tyrod to be running for his life and throwing the ball around the yard because they're losing.
Heaving it into triple coverage to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, that's what I'm relying on.
All right, nice.
I'll take Tyrod.
All right, take Tyrod Taylor. And for the tight end, I've gone with Gerald Everett, the Seahawks tight end, against the Tennessee Titans. He got a touchdown last week, wasn't hugely involved, but I like this offense. And I don't think the Titans are at so much chop on defense. They've just placed a safety on injured reserve as well and brought someone in, elevated someone off the practice squad. So I think Everett could have a nice game here. Corey?
I am taking FYI here, like I did not grab my tight end before the show here.
So it's on the fly. This is a live pick.
I'm taking the guy that you should have took last week, and that is not Chris Herndon, but his fellow teammate, which is Tyler
Conklin.
Tyler Conklin. He played 59 snaps last week. I'm taking Tyler Conklin, the Vikings against the Arizona Cardinals, and hoping that he falls into the end zone or something. That's what basically you hope for with all tight ends, right?
Pretty much, especially when you're streaming. But cumulatively, the Titans tight ends had a few catches against the Cardinals. It wasn't great. Obviously, Anthony Ferguson didn't do a whole lot. He only had
Tannehill. I'm on Tannehill though. Like Kirk Cousins at least can throw the ball down the field.
Whoa. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Ryan Tannehill has been very, very good. Let's just hope it was a week one aberration and better days are ahead. There goes the baby. It's out. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left here. We've got a handful of questions from our awesome listeners. So we appreciate that. You can always reach out to us with questions. We always do a post on Facebook. First one comes from a good friend of the show, Kevin White. He says, if you can make a sideways move off of Saquon, do you? And I guess that depends how you're quantifying sideways move.
If I can get Joe Mixon for Saquon, I'm doing it.
Oh, I love it. We needed a bold take, and we got it right away. And I'm going to be honest, I don't necessarily disagree, given what we saw and the usage and how good the Bengals offense looked. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at all. Let's play a name game here. Looking at some of the top, and you're going to tell me whether you trade Saquon, because he was going before pretty much all of these names I'm going to give you in redraft. So let's find the line here. So Joe Mixon, we know. DeAndre Swift.
No.
Nick Chubb.
Yes.
David Montgomery.
No.
Jonathan Taylor.
Ooh. Yes.
All right, there we go. So I think I agree with more.
That's probably the last guy off the top of my head that I would probably grab.
Yeah, because everyone was starting to panic about Jonathan Taylor because Nyheim Hines just signed this new contract, 3-year deal. He can get about $12 million in guaranteed money. He looks good, but Taylor still had 6 targets.
Yeah.
Because there isn't much else. We know Carson Wentz loves the running backs. Like there's room for both of these guys in this offense, and Hines will play a bit of he might line up out wide as well. So Taylor's going to get work. So Taylor's right on the line for me. I think we found the line. But I agree with Mixon, and I agree with Nick Chubb that potentially like Saquon might be potentially moving off of him because the Giants offense doesn't look good. Does not look good at all. No. Question from Mark McIntyre. Is Elijah Mitchell the running back 1 in San Francisco?
Ugh. I paid up for him in one league just because I didn't want any of my league mates to get him.
Defensive waivers.
Yeah. But that being said, I mean, it could easily be JaMychal Hasty.
Right. And now with Raheem Mostert out for the season.
And Trey Sermon's going to play.
Trey Sermon's, he's going to get involved. As always, with the 49ers, it's going to be a rotational backfield. But if you got a Mitchell, you're going to be able to start him. He's going to have some big days for you. But I wouldn't say he's probably like the RB1A in a B and C potential committee. I don't think it's going to be for now. Yeah, exactly. So
it's very fluid.
If you're able to snag him, congratulations. James Arthur, if you heard of him, he's this troll who likes to lurk in the comments. He says, does Corey know he's never actually going to get beer and I'm just playing with him? Corey, you're never going to get your beer. And in fact, before the show we started recording, JA on camera boxed up all of the beers, took Corey's address, wrote it down.
The post office.
And I don't think that box is ever moving. That box is going to sit there now for about 2 weeks.
He's in quarantine or he's in lockdown. How the hell is he going to send that?
I think the post office is considered an essential service, and delivering beer
Delivering my beer is essential.
Is essential service. And then last one, another friend of the show, Chris Morris. What are you doing with the Bucks backfield from here if you aren't avoiding altogether? Oh. We talked about this a little bit at the start, but it's not something I want to be involved in. Really, I think at cost now, and he's probably free, Gio Bernard might be the sharpest play of the lot. He's as a pass catching running back, because Rojo and Fournette are just not good pass catchers, and I think they're probably going to be involved, but there isn't much room for anyone else outside the three receivers in this offense. You got to hold Rojo though. You can't cut bait after a negative. You just got Rojo. To, right? You can't drop Rojo. Yeah. I think I have him in like 1 or maybe 2 leagues out of the 27 that I'm in. So I'm
drafted him late in a bunch of places, so I'll be holding him.
Yeah, gotta hold him
at least for the next few weeks or so. So at least up until the bye weeks, until they kind of sort this out. I think that game was weird anyway, and then obviously he had the fumble, and it wasn't a good situation. But you're holding Rojo, and like I said earlier, if you can get anything for Fournette, do it now and just pretend like he's a starter. Tell everyone that he's a starter. Arians always lies, and playoff Lenny's here to stay.
Exactly right. And it wouldn't be surprised me if Rojo ripped off 150 and a touchdown this week against the Falcons, who are just woeful.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I think that, Corey, that's everything. And look at that, 56 minutes. We're going to be under 1 hour. So, JA, if you listen to this, which you probably won't because he doesn't edit, because he's a slap dick. We came in under 1 hour. He told us it couldn't be done. We're here to prove you wrong that we can get through everything in under 1 hour. Thank you for tuning in. Corey is on Twitter at CMoney52. I am at FF_Down_Under. Follow us on Twitter. Hit us up there with any trade questions, start sit questions you have. Be sure to follow the Vault Studio on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the socials. Everything. Yeah. Find us. Subscribe to the podcast. We are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you're on Apple, please give us a 5-star rating and review. And if you want to support the podcast, get involved with the Patreon, patreon.com/The Vault Studio. We're doing monthly giveaways. JA's just stockpiling signed merchandise, jerseys, mini helmets, Burnley beer to give away. Burnley Brewing beer. He's not actually sending any to Corey. It's all going to be Patreon gifts. So monthly prize is there. It's a small amount. It's the cost of a couple of cups of coffee each month to support the podcast. So we really appreciate it if you do that. But that's it, man. It's anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, man. Good luck this week. Week 2. If you lost week 1, this is the week to get back into it.
It really is. We're always looking forward in fantasy. Don't dwell on your week 1 losses if it happened to you. Better days ahead. And remember, Thursday Night Football, get those players out of your flex and into your running back and wide receiver slots. Do not be using flex spots on Thursday Night Football. You're hamstringing yourself for the rest of the week and your ability to manipulate your lineups. But on that note, we are going to get on out of here. And Corey, I will see you next week.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.